السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Thank you for coming today to today's talk titled Misconceptions about Islam. Our respected speaker today is Brother Daud Matthews. I will go ahead and introduce Daud Matthews and give you some information about him. Daud Matthews lived in Saudi Arabia for 23 years, where he was heavily involved in da'wah. Some of his da'wah work there involved, he gave the first two talks to the American forces at the start of the first Gulf crisis. He also gave many talks at hospitals and cities and towns. He has also given the explanation of the Quran in English on the Saudi TV channel, Channel 2, for 6 months. Currently he runs da'wah courses for students and Muslim communities in which his wife handles the workshop for the sisters and he handles the workshop for the brothers. He's chairman of the board of trustees for the Al-Hira Weekend Educational Trust. They have established youth clubs for boys and also supplementary schools on Sundays. He and his wife have published a book, a guide for Hajj and Umrah, which I believe you can find on Amazon.
You used to be able to, but I think it's out of stock at the moment. What we're doing is getting it reprinted.
Okay. Yeah, so it's being reprinted. And he's also written a monograph, How to Present Islam in the West. So a little bit about his professional history. He studied physics. He's a chartered engineer and fellow of the British Computer Society. He's also a fellow of the Institute of Management. He worked for 10 years in research labs on various aspects of physics research. And then he changed over to computers in 1970, where he went to Saudi Arabia in 1974 and worked at King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals in Bahrain. There he worked as the technical manager in their computer center. Then he transferred to King Saud University in Riyadh, holding the same position between 1986 and 1997. From 1997 to 98, he was a consultant, studio manager and project manager with a web service provider in Scotland. In 98, he became the executive director for a da'wah organization, the International Council for Islamic Information, until his retirement in 2003. Brother Daud Matthews embraced Islam in 1970, and by Allah's grace he got married shortly thereafter in Pakistan, 1973. So, mashallah, we're very honored and privileged to have Brother Daud Matthews here with us today, and I'd like to hand over to him for him to begin his talk.
If you can't hear me or if I talk too fast or you want clarification, interrupt me somehow or other, okay? Money's acceptable. All right? Now, I've got a fairly long talk because we've got quite a long time to go through, and I actually want to clarify as much as I can some misconceptions. I think it's a crucial study at this time, and therefore I think it deserves quite a lot of time. And what I'm going to start with is not an ego trip, but to show the difference between having evidence and not having evidence. So the... What is this now? Of course, I just lost the thing I was using as a remote changer. I don't know where I put it now. Yeah, I had it in my hand just a minute. Oh, not sleep on the Right. So you may remember a few years ago, the Pope made some remarks about Islam. And this was written up in the Telegraph. And he was claimed to be a sharp cookie. On what basis? One of his cardinals said that he was a psychologist and he had met the Pope on over a dozen occasions and he knew the man's IQ was over 150, which made him a genius. Well, from the comments I read of what the Pope said, I didn't think the Pope was a genius. Okay? So, let's look and see. The Pope, by my judgment, has an IQ of over 150, which officially makes him a genius. Okay? So now let's look and see what I mean by evidence. I joined Mensa at the age of 55 with an IQ of 156. So that officially makes me a genius. There, 156. Okay? You may not be able to read it, but you can come and see it, or you can look at it afterwards. I'll make available the whole presentation to anyone who wants it by email if they give me the email address afterwards, including my notes. So that officially makes me a genius, but I don't think I'm a genius. Okay? And I wouldn't go around saying I was a genius or expecting other people to go around saying I was a genius. On top of that, that put me in the 99.5 percentile. I then applied for actually ISPIE, which is the top 0.1%, 99.9, and I failed. I ended up with 99.5 again. So I joined Intertel, which was over the 99% percentile. Okay? So that's my background. Okay? And that's a letter which says 99.5. Okay? And that was the score. So again, you can see there. All right? This is what I mean by evidence, and this is the whole purpose of why I'm showing you this. Many people say things. What is their evidence? Where does it come from? Specifically, does it come from God or does it come from man? Moving on. We're told that Muslims worship a different God to that of the Christians. In fact, Christianity Today in April 2001 had an article titled, "The God of the Christians, is the God of the Christians the same as the God of the Jews and the same as the God of the Muslims?" And the author concluded that while the God of the Christians could well be the same as the God of the Jews, he definitely could not be the same as the God of the Muslims. It's ludicrous. Is there a separate God for Muslims? Is there a separate God for Hindus? Is there a separate God for Buddhists? A separate God for Taoists? A separate God for communists? A separate God for atheists? And so on, and so on, and so on. And surely there are only two questions to be asked. If A equals B and B equals A, then in two entities are identical. So is God the creator? And is the creator God? Are there multiple creators or one creator? Does each group, each belief system have a separate creator? And the answer is no. There's only one creator, there is only one God. Therefore the God of the Muslims, the God of the Christians, and the God of the Jews, and the God of absolutely everyone and everything is one God. Where we differ is concept. And concept is man-made, except where we follow what God himself has told us, and what his prophets have told us about God, about Allah. And that's why I say we need the evidence. In fact, the Arab Christians in Palestine and the Coptic Christians in Alexandria, Egypt, will all refer to God as Allah. It's in their Bible, in Arabic. And I have a copy, but I didn't bring it with me. So, there's no implied meaning of an Arabian God, a moon god, or even a Muslim God. Now, if we're going to talk to people about God, and they don't believe in God, they don't even have necessarily a faith-based religion, is there any point in talking about God as the object of worship, and so on? We go through the normal forms for Islam. We talk about God as the object of worship, God as the creator and sustainer of all his creation, and the beautiful names of Allah, of God, his attributes. Okay? But does that mean anything to someone who says, I don't believe in God? So I would suggest to you that you should think of something slightly different. And this is a possible concept that can be used. The unique usage of Allah as a personal name of God is a reflection of Islam's emphasis on the purity of belief in God, which is the essence of the message of all God's messages. Because of this, Islam considers associating any deity or personality with God as a deadly sin, which he will never forgive. The Creator must be of a different nature from the things created, because if he has the same nature as they are, he will be temporal, and will therefore need the Maker. It follows that nothing is like him. If the Maker is not temporal, then he must be eternal. But if he is eternal, he cannot be caused. And if nothing causes him to come into existence, nothing outside him causes him to continue to exist, which means he must be self-sufficient. And if he does not depend on anything for the continuance of his own existence, then this existence can have no end. The Creator is therefore eternal and everlasting. The Quran tells us he is the first and the last. If the Creator is everlasting, then his attributes must also be everlasting. He should neither lose nor acquire new ones. And those attributes can be shown to be what is necessary for the universe to be created, for example. So you can lead on from that into other aspects of discussions. Okay, I'll just let you catch up with that. Now, the Christians worship Jesus, so they assumed Muslims worship Muhammad. This is not true. Muslims only worship the Creator, Allah. And they wrongfully called the followers of Muhammad, the one Muslims, Mohammedans or Mohammedans, because they called the followers of Christ Christians. The Jews called Uzair or Ezra a son of Allah, and the Christians called Christ the son of Allah. That is a saying from their mouth. In this they but imitate what the unbelievers of old used to say, Allah's curse be upon them, how they are deluded away from the truth. Now, this concept of Son of God, is it unique to Jesus? And the answer is no. You can go through the Bible, you can find, blessed are the peacemakers, but they should be called the sons of God, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, it's not unique to Jesus. So where do they get the concept of a Son of God from? Did Jesus ever say, I am God, worship me? And the answer is no. So you see what I mean by evidence. Okay? According to almost all classical commentators of the Quran, the above charge is directed more specifically to the Jews of Arabia, those that were around Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in Medina. There's a report from Ibn Abbas, that some of the Jews in Medina once said to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, how could we follow you when you have forsaken Al-Qibla and do not consider Ezra as a son of God? That's in our traditions. In the message of the Quran by Muhammad Asad, who was a Jew who actually embraced Islam, and he translated the Quran, ever since then, Ezra has been venerated to such a degree that his verdicts on the law of Moses have come to be regarded by the Talmudists as being practically equivalent to the law itself, which, in Quranic ideology, amounts to the unforgivable sin of shirk, inasmuch as it implies the elevation of a human being to the status of a quasi-divine lawgiver and a blasphemous attribution to him, albeit metaphorically of the quality of sonship in relation to God. Compared in this connection Exodus 4:22-3, Israel is my son, or Jeremiah 31:9, I am a father to Israel. Expressions to which, because of their idolatrous implications, the Quran takes strong exception. And Reuben Firestone, in the book Children of Abraham, What Muslims Should Know About Judaism, he actually says that it's quite likely that the Jews of Medina did believe that Ezra was son of God. Okay? But it doesn't apply to all Jews, so you have to be careful. Okay? You can't say to every Jew, you believe in Ezra as the son of God. Most of them do not. Okay? In other words, it's time and place. But Judaism is a religion which changes with time. Now, how do we know that Islam is the right religion? Because it's chosen by God. He tells us. Now, where is this in any other religious book? Christianity isn't mentioned in the Bible.